In this video, I really want to talk about the angle of the dangle. Well, not necessarily the dangle, but what I do want to talk about is angles in bass fishing. This is something that as an angler is super easy for us to do, but it's not always something that we think about when we are out there on the water. And it can truly be the difference between catching a few fish and catching a lot of fish. So today we're going to talk about the angle when it comes to fishing. Now, before we get into it, this video is brought to you by my apparel company. And right now at Fin Fishing, I just came out with a new product, which is the duck hat. This hat that I'm wearing right now, it is a highly durable, waterproof hat. It comes in a couple of different colors. And I know that as an angler, we put hats through a lot, whether that's different weather conditions, whether that's bright sunshine, cold, hot, everything. And so I really wanted a good quality premium hat, and that is what we finally have. So right now they are actually on sale. Today was going to be the last day of the sale, but I decided to just extend it through the weekend. So basically the evening of March 2nd is going to be the last day that these are discounted. So if you guys want to pick one up, now is the time to pick one up. Also, shopping at Fin Fishing is truly the best way to help support this channel, and I greatly appreciate all of you who have done so. All right, let's talk a little bit about angles in bass fishing. Now, the reason that I actually wanted to talk about this is because I've been watching the Bassmaster Elite Series event at Lake Okeechobee today, a little bit here and there in between doing some things. And if you guys happen to be paying attention to it, I'm going to summarize something really quick. 4 of like the top 10 anglers in this tournament, like 3 of the top 3 are basically fishing the exact same place. And on Lake Okeechobee, it's like a little bit more of an offshore piece of cover, a little bit harder piece of structure, really, a little bit harder bottom area. And for all these guys were fishing the exact same. Like, as a matter of fact, they were lined up, I mean, boat to boat to boat, fishing this exact same place. And although it looks super congested, and it was, anyways, they started out there this morning, and a lot of them were doing the exact same thing, casting the exact same way, and a couple of guys were catching a fish here, a fish there. It obviously wasn't the same as it had been, yesterday when they were out there. But anyways, kind of getting into the afternoon, a lot of the anglers that were fishing that had left that area just because they weren't catching them. But one of the anglers had stayed there, Brandon Polinick, and Brandon Polinick actually decided to switch up the angle. Instead of casting from a little bit deeper water up to shallow water, he actually positioned his boat where he was sitting in a little bit shallow water and casting out deep. Pretty much the complete opposite angle at which they had been attacking this piece of structure prior to that. And it made a huge difference. Like within an hour or hour and a half period, he caught 2 fish over 9 pounds and a 7-pounder, like a 7.5 pounder. And so, and another fish. So he's gonna weigh in a huge bag. He's yet to weigh in right now. But the big thing here is that he switched up his angle. He went from doing something that they were all doing to simply switching up his angle, and it made a humongous difference in his day. Now, over the course of me fishing a lot out there, I have done this a lot when it comes to fishing offshore structure. But what I really want to talk about a little bit more today is that switching up in shallow water can also be a huge deal. Something that I have seen time and time and time again. And when it comes to kind of switching up your angles, the whole deal behind this is really because you're trying to maximize an area. You're really trying to catch all the fish that are in these areas. And so what happens a lot of times is that whether you're fishing shallow or you're fishing offshore, if you're casting at an object or offshore for a long time, or at least repeatedly, that fish may be seeing that bait come the exact same way all the time. And so the thing about it is a lot of us anglers approach certain pieces of structure and certain pieces of cover, whether that's visible with the eyes or not, the exact same way. We like to do a lot of the exact same things. I mean, when we fish offshore structure, a lot of us are simply positioning our boats in deeper water and casting shallower water. Like that's just what you do. And sometimes doing something that is different, even with the exact same bait, can pay huge dividends as far as getting more bites. I know that for me, there's a couple of places here locally where this is a huge thing to do offshore. If you're catching fish and they stop biting, simply switch up your angle, make more casts, and you can usually pick up a few extra fish. Now, when it comes to shallow water fishing, this is also something that is really, really big. And it's something that I didn't do for a long time, but I've really started to do it here over the recent years, just because I have seen so many times that when you go down a bank at a certain angle, even if you are catching fish, a lot of times you are making a cast on certain angles, and you're kind of doing this 45-degree thing. A lot of us anglers do kind of the same thing. When we go down a bank, we're kind of casting at a 45-degree angle at the bank, which is all great, but a lot of times some of us don't always cast at that other angle. And when you go past an object, a lot of times your eyes are fixated on the next object that you're about to cast to, whether that's a dock, a stump, a laydown. Maybe you're fishing amongst a lot of reeds, a bunch of reed heads or bulrushes, whatever it may be. You're kind of looking ahead of you all the time. And so sometimes as you go this way, you're not always going to make the cast to that fish that may have been at that angle where you couldn't have hit him going this way, if that makes sense. This is kind of hard for me to explain without really showing something, but I think that if you've been fishing, you understand what I'm saying. And so anyways, you're continually making this cast and you're skipping over kind of this other angle or this fish that could be there. So what you can do is, one, make sure that you're kind of cognizant of that. When you're approaching an area and you're getting a lot of bites, especially if it's coming, just from one way, try to switch it up while you're fishing. While you're going down that bank, even if it's going one way, make those back casts every now and then. I remember a number of years ago, I was fishing with my cousin. This is when we were like 14 years old. We were super young. And I kept telling him that he was catching all these back cast fish, is what I was calling it, because we were both throwing square bills at the bank, really shallow, and we were in this little raft in a dinghy, but he kept catching a bunch of fish behind me, although we were fishing the exact same baits, but he was making a different angle. And so anyways, you apply that to the exact same thing nowadays, you can catch maybe twice as many fish at times by simply making those back casts. As you're going down one way, you cast the other way. Or what you can do is just come from the opposite direction. If you go down a bank and you catch a lot of fish and you're primarily casting at a 45-degree angle this way, literally just turn the boat around and you start going the opposite way. You're gonna hit a lot of the exact same pieces of cover, but you're gonna hit them at a lot different angle, and it can accumulate to catching a lot more fish. And like I said, you can do this a number of different ways. For example, sometimes when we fish docks, we fish them from the outside, the deeper parts, and we kind of work our way in. So sometimes it might be better for you, especially in highly pressured bodies of water, to start on the shallow stuff. Start on the walkway and fish outward, because again, what are you doing? You are switching up your angle from the norm. And when you are fishing around highly pressured bass, simply switching up that angle, as we've talked about, is a humongous deal. So just food for thought for you guys. I know that it's something that's happened to me a lot. It is something that you have to be kind of cognizant of as an angler out there, to just think about it and then do it and then apply it. And then you start catching fish and you start thinking about it all the time. But anyways, hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you guys in the next one.